Hello everyone, and welcome back to Monsters of the Past. As always, I'm your host, Mr.G. Today, I'm here to talk about two animals that were close relatives of the elephants. Please give it up for Dinotherium and the Mastodon. Dinotherium means terrible beast, which is probably the coolest name ever given to any animal ever, and it was a member of the Dinothere family. It was an herbivore that lived from the Miocene to the Pleistocene, and it had a semi-global range. Dinotherium was massive, eclipsing all modern-day elephants and the woolly mammoth in size. Although it was dwarfed by some extinct elephants like Paleoxodon or the steppe mammoth, both of which were bigger than it. The first thing you might notice about Dinotherium is the placement of its tusks. Unlike elephants, whose tusks come out of their face, Dinotherium's tusks came out of their chin and they pointed downwards as opposed to elephants, which point forward. The most likely explanation for this is that they used their tusks to either dig up tubers from the ground, or they were used to strip bark from trees in order to eat them better. But whatever the point of their weird tusks were, it'll probably likely always be a mystery. Also, it was once a popular paleo meme to give Dinotherium a short trunk. However, recently people realized that if it had a trunk that short, it wouldn't have been able to drink water. So, we now know that it had a pretty average-sized trunk. Meanwhile, Mastodon means nipple tooth. I know, just get it out of your system. Pause, and then come back. It was a member of the mammoth family. It was an herbivore that lived from the Pliocene to the Pleistocene in North America. The Mastodon was actually pretty close in size to the woolly mammoth. Which one you consider bigger depends on whether you consider length or height bigger, since Mastodon had the length advantage but woolly mammoths were taller. With the Mastodon, there's really not much I can say that I haven't said about the other extinct elephants in this series. What you see is basically what you get. It was basically a North American elephant. The only real thing that I can say about it is that there's debates as to if it was hairy or not. Now, the reason I'm talking about both of these animals together, and the reason I named this video Pseudophants, is because despite their appearances, neither of these animals were true elephants. Unlike mammoths, which did indeed belong to the elephant family, both the Dinotherium and the Mastodon belong to different branches of the Proboscidean order. Now, you might be like, well, if they belong to the same order, then shouldn't they be elephants? Well, the answer to that question is no. As a comparison, look at the bat order. Looking at all these bats, you might think they belong to the same family since, well, they have similar body plans and stuff like that. But the bat order actually has several families in it depending on what the bat's lifestyle is. It's a similar thing here. Mastodons and Dinotheres are both proboscideans, but they do not belong to the elephant family and therefore do not technically count as elephants. Now that we got that out of the way, let's look at the cards. Okay, the Dinotherium card is guilty of some pretty poor wording. It claims that it was the second biggest mammal ever. Okay, they probably meant land mammal, but the way they phrased it made it sound like it was the second biggest mammal, period. That would be ridiculous, because not only was it eclipsed by several extinct animals, but it's eclipsed by several modern-day animals like, I don't know, basically almost all the baleen whales. Yeah, and even if they did mean second biggest land mammal, that's inaccurate too. It was dwarfed by other elephants, like the previously mentioned steppe mammoth, and I think Columbian mammoth was bigger, although I haven't actually did a comparison yet. Well, if I can give this card one thing, is that I legitimately can't tell if this trunk is too short due to its position. So, I don't know. Overall, I give this card an 8 out of 10. With the Mastodon, as you can see, they went with a compromise of the hairy, hairless debate and gave it like a patch of hair down its back, which is kinda cool. Now, like I said before, Cenozoic animals tend to age the best, and at first it seemed like this card was gonna slide away just fine. At least until the back where it claims it's the ancestor to the woolly mammoth and all modern elephants. You were so close, Monsters of the Past. You were so close. Why did you have to mess it up with that? Why? Also, the back of the card is almost a word-for-word recreation of what they said about the woolly mammoths, with how they were a massive treasure to cavemen due to their massive meat. Like, go back and read the mammoth card and then this one. You'll notice that they're basically the same paragraph. I give this card a 9 out of 10. And I'm disappointed because this card was this close, Monsters of the Past. Why did you have to make that stupid claim? Now let's look at these animals in pop culture. Dinotherium was in Jurassic World the game, where it's erroneously placed in the tundra despite being a species that mostly lived in savanna areas, and we have no evidence that it was hairy, so it would probably freeze to death if it lived in the tundras. And it appeared in Walking with Beast, where a male goes into must, which is that thing that male elephants go into where they want to kill everything in sight, and that they're seen attacking a group of Australopithecuses. Should be noted, though, so that since Dinotheriums weren't true elephants, it's unlikely they would have gone into muths. As for Mastodon, it appeared in the PC game Zoo Tycoon 2, where they seem to have replaced the woolly mammoth for some reason. I don't know, maybe the developers liked Mastodons more. And they were in Jurassic Park Builder, and Jurassic World the game. As you can see, Builder went with the hairless interpretation, while World went with the hairy interpretation. That's all for this episode of Monsters of the Past. Join me next time when we go back to the Triassic to talk about the dinosaur blueprint. Bye!